Flight 2187, the genius behind the disguise. The sky was a brilliant blue as Flight 2187 prepared for departure from Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Captain Raymond Holt, a legend at North American Skyways, walked through the terminal with the quiet confidence of a man who had mastered the air. 23 years in the cockpit had made him both respected and feared. At 52, his once black hair had faded to a distinguished silver, but his steel blue eyes remained sharp. In the cockpit, First Officer Lila Mendoza, 36, nodded as Holt entered. Despite being one of the airline's few female pilots to reach the senior ranks, she carried herself with no-nonsense poise. Holt acknowledged her with a curt nod and began his meticulous pre-flight routine. Atlantic looks clear for 4 hours, then some rough weather off Newfoundland, Mendoza reported. Nothing we haven't handled before, Holt grunted. He glanced at the security monitors as boarding began. A young man, no more than 17 or 18, was escorted to first class. His curly black hair and youthful face stood out among the typically older business travelers. Holt raised an eyebrow. Probably some tech mobile's kid, he muttered. Looks like he's alone, Mendoza noted. Of course. Your generation gets everything handed to them, Holt said, adjusting his headset. A moment later, Chief Flight Attendant Pamela Ortiz poked her head in. Cabin's ready, Captain. Thanks, Ortiz. Tell ground we want to push back 5 minutes early. Headwinds are stronger than forecast. As Ortiz left, the young man in first class approached the galley, gesturing toward the cockpit. Looks like we've got ourselves an aviation enthusiast, Mendoza remarked. I was scrubbing hangars and reading manuals at that age. Not flying first class, Holt said with a sigh. The intercom buzzed. Captain, the young man's asking to see the cockpit. Says he's thinking of flight school. Holt scowled. We're mid-pre-flight. We're ahead of schedule, Mendoza replied gently. After a tense pause, Holt relented. Fine. 30 seconds. The cockpit door opened, and the teenager entered, eyes wide with awe. Wow. Thank you, Captain. This is incredible. You've got 29 seconds, Holt said flatly. I'm Zane Khalil, the boy said. It's an honor to be on your flight. I read about your emergency landing in Denver during that hailstorm. Textbook compressor stall recovery. Holt raised an eyebrow. Not many remembered that incident. You've done your homework, Holt said dryly. Zane pointed to a panel. Is that a slight anomaly in the hydraulic pressure indicator for System B? Holt glanced at it. That's standard pressure. Maybe finish high school before you try to teach pilots, kid. Zane's expression faltered, but he nodded respectfully. Of course. Thank you. As he turned to leave, he added, the 787's triple redundant hydraulics are truly remarkable. After the door closed, Mendoza looked at Holt disapprovingly. That was unnecessary. He probably watched some YouTube videos and thinks he's Sully, Holt muttered. Neither of them noticed Zane's lingering gaze through the cockpit window, his mind already racing. 2 hours into the Atlantic crossing, just after Holt returned from the lavatory, a warning light blinked on the console. Electrical bus fluctuation, Mendoza reported, hands already moving across the backup systems panel. Run diagnostics, Holt said, forgetting about Zane. The system stabilized, but 30 minutes later, another alert, cabin pressure fluctuation. Then more, each minor, but stacking up. Someone in maintenance is getting fired, Holt growled. Rain streaked the windshield as turbulence rocked the plane. Lightning flashed. ATC warned of worsening weather. We should consider diverting to Gander, Mendoza suggested. Not yet, Holt snapped. We're within safety limits. Then came another call from the cabin. Captain, the young man from earlier, Zane, insists he knows what's happening. Claims he's an aerospace engineer. Holt almost laughed. Tell him to enjoy his in-flight meal. But the turbulence worsened. Another alert, autopilot failure. Holt took manual control. Meanwhile, Zane was furiously typing on a tablet in first class. His eyes shifted between the wing and the screen. The position lights were flickering in a specific pattern. He stood up. Sir, remain seated, a flight attendant warned. I need to speak to the captain. Now. Pamela Ortiz approached. The captain said, he doesn't understand. The pressure variance, the flickering lights, it's a cascading fault in the power distribution system. If we don't act, he'll lose primary and secondary systems in 15 minutes. Back in the cockpit, systems continued failing. Environmental controls, NAV aids, hydraulic subsystems. Ortiz burst in. Captain, Zane predicted all of this. He says he knows how to stop it. Mendoza turned to Holt. He's describing an actual known failure sequence. The procedure he mentioned, using the APU and resetting breakers, it's valid. Another system failed. Holt's pride faltered under the weight of responsibility. Bring him in. Zane entered with calm urgency. We need to isolate breakers Echo 7 to 12. Transfer a load to the APU, reset the power modules. Holt reached for the breakers. 3 seconds, then reset main bus, Zane advised. The displays flickered back to life. Systems recovered. How did you know? Mendoza asked. A service bulletin from 3 months ago, Zane said. It's a known defect. Only some engineers are aware. I'm certified to fly the 787. I'm 19. I've been part of an accelerated aerospace program since I was 16. Impossible, Holt muttered. It's not public. My flight today was to join a test pilot program in London. Why didn't you say so earlier? Because I wasn't supposed to. The program prefers discretion. But when I saw the early signs, I had to help. Holt stared at him. You saved this flight. I misjudged you. I owe you an apology. No need, Captain. You followed protocol. Word spread through the cabin. The teenager in first class had helped avert disaster. Passengers whispered. Some applauded when they saw him return to his seat. As they neared London, Holt turned to Mendoza. We're beginning descent. Time for our genius to get some rest. Zane smiled. It's been an honor, Captain. Likewise, Holt said. Let me introduce you to a few people when we land. People who should hear what you have to say. But when they landed, Zane had vanished. The seat was empty. He left in a hurry, Ortiz said. Said thank you and disappeared. Holt was intercepted by 2 stern-looking agents from British Aviation Security. Captain Holt, one said. We need to speak with you about a passenger. Zane Khalil. In a private room, officials explained. Zane Khalil was a Jordanian national, 19, a former child prodigy, and also a person of interest to intelligence agencies. He disappeared from a research facility in Dubai months ago. He may be defecting, with highly sensitive aviation data. But he helped us, Holt protested. He saved 256 lives. Did he install anything on the aircraft? No, he didn't touch the systems. I executed everything myself. Still, the aircraft would need to be grounded and inspected. Later, Holt received a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry for the deception. What I told you about my father was true. What I did for the aircraft was necessary. Some truths must remain hidden. Fly safe. Then the message vanished. Meanwhile, in a London flat, Zane sipped tea. Across from him sat Dr. Elena Rahman, a former Boeing engineer. The beacon is active, she said. We have the proof. Your father would be proud. This doesn't bring him back, Zane replied. But it might save others. His father, Captain Fard Khalil, died in a crash blamed on pilot error. But the real cause was the very defect he'd just exposed. At Transky Airways HQ in Chicago, chaos erupted. News broke. Maintenance documents had been leaked, showing falsified records. Zane released a video. My name is Zane Khalil. My father died in a crash blamed on him, but it wasn't his fault. It was corporate negligence. I've spent years uncovering the truth. Yesterday, I prevented a similar disaster. FAA, EASA, and global regulators launched investigations. Multiple aircraft were grounded. Captain Holt testified before the NTSB. This wasn't just a maintenance failure. It was a cultural one, where age and background cloud judgment, including mine. Transky offered him early retirement to keep him quiet. He refused. Melissa Mendoza released cockpit recordings proving Holt's account. Zane disappeared again. A week later, Holt received a secure email, a photo of Zane beside a sleek test aircraft in a desert. Your father would be proud, Holt replied silently. Because sometimes the most brilliant pilots don't wear four stripes. They wear youth, humility, and the courage to rewrite a legacy.